This recording, called Dealing with Worry, has been put together for people who want to understand more about that topic. It lasts about 15 minutes and runs through some simple techniques for managing how you feel if you experience problems with worry. It's a good idea to listen to the recording several times to master the material covered. We recommend that you find a quiet time to give this your full attention. Everyone worries. Young and old, female and male, poor and more fortunate. All of us. There are so many things for us to worry about. Loved ones, money, jobs, the future of our planet even. Worry is a continual mental chatter that runs at the back of our minds, fleeting in and out of awareness. We sometimes pay attention to it, sometimes not. It's even occasionally useful, but worry is just part of being human. Sometimes, though, worry gets the better of us. This is an extremely common problem, and the purpose of this recording is to teach you more about that and how to stop it. Remember this phrase: one worry leads to another. When this happens, it's what on this recording we have called unhelpful worry. Unhelpful worry could stop us from getting to sleep. It could cause us to feel stuck or bogged down. Unhelpful worry has a skittling effect, where one worry bumps into the next and the next, like falling skittles spreading out. Day-to-day things seem to become threatening. Here's an example. A woman at work is struggling to get things finished before the end of the day. Unhelpful worry takes hold. First, she thinks, I'll make a mistake. Then she thinks, my manager will notice. Now she's worrying about being sacked and having to go home and tell her partner. She even worries that the relationship might break down. In just a few moments, her worry has spread right out from thoughts of not getting things done to thoughts about being unemployed and single. And how has this made her feel? That's right, absolutely dreadful. One worry leads to another. It's the skittling effect. Interestingly, it's clear from research that many people believe worry is a positive sign. People say that if they worry, then A, this means that they care, and B, they'll be better prepared if things go wrong. Well, yes, some worry can be useful, and we'll look at that in a moment, but most of it is unhelpful. In unhelpful worry, everything goes wrong. There's really nothing helpful in preparing for every worst-case scenario. And not only that, unhelpful worry deflates our sense of being able to deal with things or offer care to other people. There are a number of important things to notice at this point. Firstly, a degree of worry is a normal part of life. Secondly, worrying has no bearing or influence on the outcome of the event that we're worrying about. Thirdly, most worrying that we do is not useful, but just unhelpful. Psychologists and others have discovered that actually there are lots of things you can do to reduce problems with worry, and I'd like to move on to those now. So we need to distinguish between what is useful and what is unhelpful worry. Well, useful worry is easy to identify. It's focused on actual things. It's realistic in its predictions, and it doesn't have that skittling effect I talked about. Other people would agree that the worry is reasonable and in perspective. This kind of worry spurs us into active problem solving. And what I mean by active problem solving is being clear about what it is we're trying to sort out, coming up with ideas about how to solve the problem, and then carrying out the idea most likely to achieve the aim. For example, a man is very short of money, but he'd like to buy a gift for a close friend. He's worried that his friend will feel disappointed if he doesn't receive a gift. It's a realistic and specific worry, and it spurs him into action. The man weighs up ideas. He decides to buy a card for his friend and promise a gift to follow. He makes a written note in his diary on payday to remind him to act on that promise. It's a good outcome. It's a useful worry. Unhelpful worry, on the other hand, is unrealistic. It's negative, and it has a life of its own. If honest, other people around you would say that those worries are out of perspective. They're not well reasoned. This can lead to the problems described earlier, but we'd like you to do something different. Next time you start to be bombarded by unhelpful worries, stop. Don't do anything except write them down. At this point, it's a good idea to find a pen and paper if you haven't already got them. If you need to, pause the recording. Okay, draw 3 columns on the paper. Name the first column, the awful thing my worry is predicting. Name the second column, did the awful prediction happen? And the last column, what actually did happen and how did I cope? Now, write the awful thing that the worry is predicting. You can leave the next columns blank for the time being. Save the worry until later. And if unhelpful worrying thoughts keep coming to your attention, just notice them for what they are. Say to yourself, out loud ideally, this is just unhelpful worry. And then let them pass by like clouds in the sky. Refocus your attention on the things around you and the task at hand. Now, I would like you to set aside some time each day to be a worry time. Although it might sound strange, I need you to use this worry time to really think hard about and indulge all of the worries of the day. The technique is to postpone worries that come up earlier until the later worry time. Find a suitable slot of about 10 to 30 minutes where distractions can be minimised. Protect this time. Use it every day to deliberately air all of your worries. Refer back to the piece of paper that you've been using to write your worries down. Read them through, say them out loud. Try really hard to think about them. Be very deliberate about it. Notice what happens. Worries become more difficult to hold on to and less troubling as you gain a different perspective. Also, use your worry time to reflect on what actually happened to those awful predictions. Use the second column to write down if the worry came true or not. Just a simple tick or cross will do. Finally, use that third column to record what happened if the worry did come true, noting particularly how you coped. Did the worry come true? If it didn't, just note that. Worry predicts so many awful things that don't actually happen. If it did, was it as awful as predicted? How did you cope? Just note it down. Some worries need to be looked at again a few days after you first have them, like in the following example. A woman worried that no one would come to a party that she'd arranged. She thought she wouldn't enjoy the evening, and worst of all, that she'd be humiliated. She wondered why she'd even had the idea of throwing a party in the first place. She wrote down all these worries. She recognised some of them as useful worries and thought of how she could actively solve the problem. For example, she worried that if people did turn up, she actually wouldn't have enough drinks glasses. As she wrote that down and thought about it, she remembered her friend had a party box of glasses. A quick phone call to her friend put an end to that. The woman also recognised that lots of the worries were unhelpful. They weren't realistic. That skittling effect was there. First off, she stopped. She wrote them down, and she tried to postpone her worries until later. As they seemed to pop back into her mind, she said to herself, "This is just one of those unhelpful worries again." She thought of clouds passing by. The following day, when she was using her worry time, she looked at what she'd written down. The awful predictions actually hadn't come true. There were lots of crosses in that second column, something that she was really beginning to take notice of. Some people didn't come to the party, but actually lots of people did. Although she was disappointed that some people couldn't make it, she understood it was a bit last minute and people had other things planned. Despite this, she had a really good time. She decided to invite the people who couldn't make it to another party in the near future. She used the third column to note these things down, to remind her of how she coped. Writing things down, just like this woman did, is crucial. Some therapists say, if it's not written down, it didn't happen. That's a good little rule of thumb to have in mind. Try and get things down on paper, because this helps you to get a different perspective. By using the worry time and writing your worries down, you'll discover, with practice, that you can learn to let unhelpful worries pass through your attention without getting too caught up with them, and that when you do so, they stay as they are rather than having that skittling effect. Also, you'll learn that worry predicts many awful things that don't actually happen. Even if one of your worries does come true, it's likely you'll find that you coped much better than you initially predicted. You'll become better at dealing with realistic worries, better able to let go of unhelpful ones, and less stressed. Well, before I conclude, I'd like to mention a few ideas that you can consider over time. The first idea is that worry can be all about trying to create certainty and control. If you notice that you're trying to achieve this, then it's important to ask yourself whether this is realistic in an unpredictable world. It might be more helpful to learn to tolerate uncertainty. Secondly, worry can be about deeper issues, such as believing that there's something wrong with you. If you can, try and challenge these beliefs by carefully looking at the evidence for and against them. You can also ask yourself what you might say to a friend if you knew that they thought about themselves in that particular way. Finally, worry can be a way of avoiding other things that seem too uncomfortable to address. If you're able, try and allow yourself to let out emotions that need to surface. Over time, you'll find that the emotions become less intense as you allow yourself to feel them, and more importantly, that they pass and they are manageable. Okay, so let's recap. There are 4 key things to remember about worry. Number 1, worry is normal and natural. It can be helpful or unhelpful. Remember, helpful worry is realistic and focused. It cues us into active problem solving. Number 2, unhelpful worry is negative, unrealistic, and it has the skittling effect, growing and growing. Identifying worry as unhelpful is an opportunity to learn about it and respond to it in a different way. Number 3, worrying thoughts are simply that, worrying thoughts. They are not the crystal ball telling you the future. They are not physically harmful, and they don't make you a better person or help you cope with life any better. Number 4, use this opportunity to question your approach to life and yourself. Learn to accept that life is unpredictable. Learning to tolerate uncertainty is an incredibly useful and important life skill. Appreciating that we are all human beings and as such are imperfect can release us from worry and the effort to be something that we're not. This brings us to the end of the recording. We recommend that you listen back until you've mastered the material covered. If you want to learn more about this and the ideas that we've covered, you might want to read the following books: The Worry Cure by Dr. Robert Leahy and Overcoming Worry by Kevin Mears and Mark Freeston.